If there's two things I like, it's isekai anime and Dark Souls. If you were to smash the two together, you'd get 2019's Code Vein. Recently dropped onto the Steam's Marketplace, I had a chance to play through it. True to the anime influences of the game, there's a full-on story told through beautiful cutscenes and lore that you pick up on. Unlike a Souls game, there's an AI partner that can be troublesome at times but helpful in a pinch. Also, unlike Souls games, Code Vein boasts a unique combat building system based around blood codes. Here are the 6 facts to help you noobs get good and hopefully take another look at the game. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell for more gaming news in the future. Also, if you have a game you'd like to suggest for me to play through and give feedback on, please leave a comment below. Without further ado, let's get into the meat and potatoes. I think I peaked my mic there. The story takes this anime Souls-like action RPG into a post-apocalyptic meets sci-fi ruined city. Your custom character awakens in the ruins of the city as an undead revenant who feeds on blood in the wild, Mad Max style, in a ghoul-eat-ghoul world. There are more revenants than people, which means food is scarce. Also, the death of a frenzied queen releasing miasma, which is killing off most of the local wildlife, and frenzies other revenants. The story itself is deadly serious, but there's a bit of a wacky streak, which includes white trees that literally grow beads of blood. That makes the world a little bit more interesting. But the wild designs sometimes feel out of place with the story's bleak tone. The game will take the player through numerous locations in search for answers, and hopefully a way to put an end to the suffering of the others. Some locations include a snowy mountaintop, a pit where the ocean or sea receded, and a recreation of New Orlando. The story has you downing and collecting the Queen's relics, which are located in vessels called successors. The successors begin to frenzy, and it's up to your character to put them to rest, finally giving them the peace before they become ash. The story accumulates with a throwdown to the Skull King, a frenzy salva that goes right into the Queen's relics, fusing together to form a final boss, the Virgin Born. With the death of the boss, you get one of a few endings depending on how you played the game. The story in Code Vein is much more apparent than Souls fans would be used to, with long, plentiful cutscenes and fully voice-acted characters. In addition to the in-your-face story elements, you learn a lot more about individual characters and the background of the world through vestiges. These are hidden collectibles, sometimes found hiding in the world behind tough opponents, or gained by defeating a boss, or gained by completing a side quest for the various NPCs that pop up throughout the campaign. Everything in Code Vein revolves around blood. You are a revenant, a semi-immortal vampire-like creature that survives on blood. If you do not feed enough on blood, you will eventually lose yourself and become one of the lost, not unlike a hollow in Dark Souls. Most of the opponents you fight throughout the game are members of the Lost, former revenants who have gone entirely mad. The way the Lost tie in with the rest of the world and how revenants came to be play a big part of the story in Code Vein. In addition to the story, the gameplay revolves around blood as well. You accumulate blood, or ichor, and use it to execute your abilities. Ichor is gathered in several ways, either through attacking your opponent, using specials, charged drain attacks, or through super-powered backstabs. The amount of ichor you can hold at a time is influenced by your blood code. Blood codes are like a class system, and it will take some time to figure out exactly what the best one is for you. Some focus on strength and two-handed weapon fighting, some focus on speed and recovery, some focus on ranged attacks, and so on and so forth. You start with 3 available blood codes, but there are 31 more to be found throughout the world. That goes to show just how many ways this game could be played. Code Vein brings an unparalleled level of diversity to the Souls formula, with each blood code playing differently and bringing unique abilities to the table. While Code Vein plays differently than a Dark Souls game, parts of it are ripped straight from Software's playbook. Your regeneration consumable, for example, works just like an Ectus flask. It refills when you rest at missile checkpoints, which work just like bonfires, and you find items to upgrade how much it heals and how many charges it has. You level up using haze collected by killing enemies, you lose your haze when you die, and you can reclaim it by retracing your subs. The weapon upgrade system is shot for shot, the same as Titanite. Code Vein has its own version of Ornstein and Smo, and not to mention an alternate universe, New Orlando. The elements worked before, and they work very well here, albeit it's still a blatant ripoff. Blood codes offer the best variety to gameplay. To truly master a blood code, you'll need to find all the vestiges related to it, with each vestige unlocking a new gift or two. You're going to want those gifts because when you level up in Code Vein, you only increase your health, stamina, and base attack values. All of your specific stats come from your blood code, your gifts, and your gear. That is your blood veil armor and your 2 weapons. The kicker is that once you've learned most gifts, you can use them no matter what blood code you have equipped, as long as you have the prerequisite stats, like a B rank in strength. This system marries the game's story, exploration, and combat beautifully, and it's the driving force for the entire game. There are dozens of blood codes and hundreds of gifts, and the sheer number of possible combinations is intoxicating. Many players agonized over how to build a character and savor every decision. This also motivated them to explore the dungeons and all nooks and crannies more thoroughly. Combat is a series of attacks, blocks, dodges, parries, and rolls. Different enemies will require a different approach, and sometimes what you might typically do will fail and you will have to approach an opponent in an entirely new way. Ichor, as mentioned earlier, is limited according to your blood code. Ichor is how you use your blood gifts, which can be likened to sorceries in the Souls games. Blood gifts are much more varied than sorceries are, and combat is okay at best. Your attacks are sluggish and don't flow together at all, so fights are stilted and all around janky. The 5 weapon types, sword, greatsword, halberd, hammer, and bayonet, feel indistinct, and the only weapons with movesets that have any particular personality are unlocked way too late in the game. The best approach with every weapon is always just smashing the square or X button until whatever you're fighting dies. Blocking is so punishing that it basically is pointless, and timing out the parry is so wonky that I ended up never using it. Enemies are slow, they're blind, and particularly stupid, and they have obvious and easily interruptible attacks. The true danger lies in the game's questionable hitboxes. I've cleared most of the game in my around 35 hours of just bulldozing my way through the main bosses. Code Vein is, in my opinion, too easy, in a large part because the partners are utterly bananas. You could bring one partner with you and while you go exploring, and fighting alongside them contributes to wafer-thin friendship systems, but it also further trivializes the fight. I get that nobody likes escorting dumb NPCs, but I think the companions in Code Vein go too far in the opposite direction. If anything, it seems like they are escorting you as the player. Partners will straight up solo some bosses if you let them. I did this as an experiment, and they can repeatedly revive you if you die. They will massacre normal enemies before you even get a chance to get to them. In a word, they are monsters. The enemies in Code Vein are irredeemably repetitive. I speak no hyperbole when I say to you, you fight the exact same enemies for the entire game. One or two new enemies will show up in some dungeons, sure, but the baseline bad guy never changes. Half of the enemies in the first level also appear in the final level, and again, they aren't particularly interesting or challenging. Basic enemies are aggressively recycled, and even some of the bosses are reused. Which is a complete bummer since some of the bosses were super cool, and I would like to see more unique designs. The dingy environments also blur together to form a forgettable smear of guy-stubbed hallways. I hope you enjoy dank caves and concrete rubbles, because you will end up seeing quite a bit of it. When I had finished my 35-ish first playthrough of Code Vein, I was truly surprised that it had been that long. Code Vein was fun, a fresh take on the souls-borne formula, and genuinely an incredible game. There was a few things that I didn't like, but bygones. All I wanted to do when I finished was to start over and try out some of the other blood codes that I hadn't done. Code Vein is a perfect starting point for a friend that always wanted to try Dark Souls, but couldn't because of its very steep difficulty curve. It's also a great choice for Souls veterans to whet your appetite as you eagerly wait for the next genuine From Software offering. There are so many unique and fun changes here that although there's definitely a difficulty decrease, you would really enjoy yourself. Especially if you're like me, one who enjoys anime and Dark Souls, and would like to see what kind of an abomination the two would produce if ever put together. Thank you all for watching, stay safe out there, and have a good day.
The relics that Silva once held. The powers that you have inherited from them are now, by your will, bound to your flesh.